I just wanted to say a special thank you to our friends at Wade Studio for letting us use their beautiful space here. If you're in the Toronto area, you should definitely check them out at wadestudio.ca. Hi, my name is Leah. Today we're going to do a little yoga session for beginners. So if you've never been to a yoga class, or maybe you have and it kind of went over your head, or you're just curious to learn a little bit more about yoga, this is the right one for you. To get started, let's just find a seated position, cross-legged or whatever's comfortable for you. This is called easy pose because it's easy. So just take a seat here, and one of the main aspects of yoga is becoming present and focusing on our physical body and not letting our mind wander too much. It's very helpful to get into a meditative state without focusing too hard on it. It's kind of like passive meditation, if you will. So let's just get into our easy seat here and start to take some deep breaths. Yoga breathing is traditionally in and out through your nose. This warms our body, our throat, and can help us focus on, again, our physical body rather than mental noise. So let's start to transition into deep breaths in and out through your nose. Another key element of yoga is alignment. The poses may not seem very challenging at first glance, but when you're focusing on the specific alignments, there's actually quite a few things that you need to take into account. So it can be a little more difficult than it may seem, but we'll talk through those when we get there. Let's take our right arm and lift it up overhead and take a stretch over to your left side. When we are stretching from side to side, it's important for us to keep our shoulders framed to the front of the room rather than letting our back cave in or splay out. Keeping this alignment helps protect your spine when we're doing these stretches. Let's bring our arm back and do the other side. Left arm reaches overhead and over to the right side. Another important thing is to keep our shoulders down and not scrunched up by our ears. This is also helpful for spine health. Inhale, bring your arms back down. Let's go into tabletop. So, tabletop looks like a table. Our wrists are stacked underneath our shoulders, and our knees are underneath our hips. Our hands are about the same distance as our shoulders, and same thing with our knees and our hips. So we're really stable and strong in this position. When our hands are on the mat, we want our fingers to be spread nice and wide, and rather than just pressing into the heels of your hand, focus on taking your weight and really pressing into all 10 fingers and spreading evenly the weight onto each hand. This helps with any wrist discomfort that you might have. And when we're doing yoga classes, a lot of the time, if you're finding that your wrists are getting sore, you're probably not using your full, you're not spreading your weight enough. You're just focusing too much on your heels of your hands. As for your knees, if you do find that you get some knee pain or you just have an injury, you can use a blanket or you can fold your mat underneath your knees for a little extra cushion. As someone who's been doing a lot of yoga, I still find that if I spend a lot of time on my knees when I'm doing different yoga poses, I can get some pain. So I do like to stick a mat under there or a blanket. Take some deep inhales and exhales. And we're going to do a cat and cow. This is a fundamental little flow that you will see in a lot of classes. So cow pose, we drop our bellies down, take our gaze up, and really take a deep inhale. Cat pose, we exhale, reverse, round your spine, and take your gaze to the back of your mat or your belly button. Tuck your chin under here. And then we reverse. Inhale, cow, look up, drop your belly. Exhale, cat, round your spine, gaze down. Usually we'll do a minute or two of just cat and then cow. This warms up your spine and prepares you for some of the more challenging poses in your yoga class. Cat pose also is great for counteracting a lot of the hunching that we do at our chairs if you do desk work. Come to a neutral spine. From here, we're going to step our hands up a bit and lift our knees into a high plank position. So this is the top of a push-up, and this is an active pose where we really have to engage our core here, not to be over exerting the plank where our hips are too high or under where your hips are too low. Try and keep them really level and even, and your shoulders are tracking over top of your wrists here. Exhale, lift your hips up into downward facing dog. This is a very common pose. Downward dog, our hips are raised and level. Our heels are reaching to eventually be touching the mat, but oftentimes not quite there. Our hands are maybe shoulders width or a little wider. Our fingertips are wide and spread, and that even weight dispersion in them. And there should be like a long line from your fingertips all the way up to your hips. This is an active relaxation pose. You can pedal out your hips here to just wake them up for the rest of your class, and also just helps you settle into this pose a bit more. On your next exhale, come back into that high plank position, and then you can lower your knees to the ground and slowly lower your body all the way onto the floor. From here, we will do baby cobra. So keep your hands underneath your shoulders, palms down on the ground. Your feet come together, your legs come together into a long cobra's tail. The tops of your feet are pressing into the ground, and using the strength of your back, you're going to lift your chest up off the ground. And on your inhale, shine your chest forward, take your gaze up as high as you can into this light back bend. Exhale, release down to the ground. Let's do one more round. Inhale, lift your chest, look up, light pressure in your hands, mostly letting your back do the work. Exhale, release. On your inhale, press into your hands, ups or tabletop. Walk your knees in a bit, and let's sit our hips back and down into child's pose. Child's pose is great for releasing your shoulders. It's a really nice stretch, really great way to recover when you're feeling tired. If you're ever in a class and you feel like you just need a break, this is a wonderful pose to do. So your hips are on top of your heels. Your forehead is either on the ground, or if it can't quite reach, you could even just place it on your hands. Arms can be bent or out straight with your palms touching the ground. If you widen your knees and your legs, this is a great way to focus on your hips and stretch your hips out in child's pose. Or if you keep your knees together, it will stretch out your lower back. So you can kind of decide where you want to focus. And then the last pose that we'll talk about today is Savasana, which is corpse pose. It is the final resting pose in your classes. So your legs come out in front of you and you essentially just lie down on your back. Your legs are out straight. Your feet kind of splay out to the side to release your hips. Your arms are down by your sides, palms facing up to release your shoulders. And head is just straight in the middle, and you really want to try and focus on staying completely still here and letting your body and your heart rate lower, just super relaxed. After all the hard work of your class, take this time to thank yourself and wind down. Usually Savasana will last a few minutes, and it's my favorite pose. When you're finished, it's nice to kind of slowly wake your body back up by doing some wrist rotations. Maybe you can do some heel rotations. Just stretch, wake up very gently out of this final rest, come to a seat. And that's usually how classes end. Thanks for joining.